Well, the leftist tears are going to continue when they see that recent polling data found that a majority of Americans approve of President Trump and Elon Musk, and more people approve than disapprove of DOGE. So will Democrats conform to public opinion, or will they continue with their flurry of lawsuits against DOGE? This is the subject of today's Beltway Brief, written, of course, by Chris Bedford, and he joins us now to discuss all this. So, Chris, how will Democrats actually handle the fact that so many Americans are backing DOGE?
They're not handling it well. There's so much confusion. There's anger. You start to see Democrat senators and Democrat pundits coming out and saying, I know, I've got the messaging memos. I'm getting the messaging memos from the party central. I'm getting the forms that say, hey, by the way, we've been polling this. By the way, we've been doing focus groups. By the way, we've been talking to people. And guess what? They like this. Young people like this. Old people like this. People don't even comprehend how this could be a constitutional crisis. This is not a battle that you want to fight. You wish you did it yourself. And they're just coming out there and saying they don't want to listen to that they're still going to fight it, that they're still going to push back against it. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, one, to their point, it's not always got to be about messaging. Sometimes you have to do what you think is necessary for your power and for your party. And while the messengers and the pollsters are always going to say this is only about running for re-election and winning, the Democrat senators know and congressmen know that these sorts of orgs, this sorts of federal government, this is how they maintain power. I mean, the reason why Virginia is more blue than purple and more purple than red is because of the federal government. You can watch it over the years. Northern Virginia, the way it's changed as the government has expanded. I live, unfortunately, I've escaped Washington, D.C. to the deepest blue of the Old Dominion. It's got nothing to do with the way the culture is and the people are and the rest of this beautiful state. And it's because of the federal government. You see the money that's flowing around this thing. So they're sort of stuck. Essentially, one, they're out of practice. So they're really not used to being a serious opposition. They had to do it during Donald Trump, and they were successful just lighting their hair on fire and ordering around street mobs and conspiracy theories. Those don't seem to be working anymore. So what they're stuck with is simply lighting their hair on fire. And I just don't think it's going to play well for them with the voters. The way the map is changing and sorting out for the Senate elections in the midterm, you might see the very rare thing where the incumbent party makes gains after 2 years. Of course, the reason why parties almost never make gains after the first 2 years is, generally speaking, because they fail to deliver on their promises. Everybody says they're going to cut waste. Obama said he was going to cut waste. Biden said he was going to cut red tape. George W. Bush said he was going to cut waste and red tape. They didn't really do it. Ronald Reagan, bless him, said that he was going to cut down on the bureaucracy in the government, but his focus was largely on foreign policy and a lot less on what was actually going on domestically. So he didn't really leave behind a really lasting legacy. I guess Clinton cut through bureaucracy and red tape with pushing and the serious cajoling of a Republican House of Representatives. But even then, it's still such a rare thing. So maybe if this continues and they stay on their Russia, Ukraine, Elon Musk, we need to defend government waste. We need to defend government federal employees' tantrums. We need to fight for Guatemalans and Hondurans. You might actually see Republican gains in the midterms.
One of the things that I wonder about right now is how much of the brain trust behind the Democratic Party, the people who really are strategists, it almost seems like after Kamala, who a lot of them didn't really like anyway, they just kind of punted, And so eventually you'd think some of the smarties might come back, but right now it just feels like it's just flying around out there. And then you point out that the speechwriter, John Lovett, speechwriter for Kerry, Clinton, and Obama, said, some of these recent actions are genuinely impressive on the part of Donald Trump. What do you make of that?
You see a lot of this coming through from the former Obama people. Lovett's on a podcast with a couple of former Obama head of speechwriting and other speechwriters called Pod Save America. It's basically the preeminent liberal podcast by anyone who's younger than James Carville. And they were looking at this in anger, saying, we wish we'd done this, that the American people obviously back this, that this is something. I mean, they were at the same time, of course, they were putting all the little things around the sides, the throat clearing, saying that, oh, this is bad, Elon Musk is bad. But there was obvious, palpable envy. And this has been a theme of this last month or so of my Beltway Brief column, is that the Democrats who were involved with President Barack Obama, who's the most successful Democratic president of a generation, are all warning everyone else who's left behind in the party, saying, hold on. And same thing with Bill Clinton. His Democrats are all warning people, you guys are on the wrong foot. You guys are pushing too hard. Even Barack Obama in his last days in office said that they probably pushed too hard on their left-wing agenda, which of course they did. And it caused a reaction, which was outside. The American people weren't interested in going as far as they actually pushed it. But there's an interesting thing that goes on with both Clinton and especially with Barack Obama's teams, is that they were outsiders. They were disruptors. If you're a part of the crusty old Democratic machine, which wasn't actually that great, you were 100% signed on with Hillary Clinton after George W. Bush. That was the campaign. She was ascendant. It's amazing how many times we've been told Hillary Clinton is going to be the next Madam President. But she was defeated by Barack Obama, who then got to pick and choose which people he actually wanted to have. He was a young senator who didn't have all the same loyalties of the old Democratic Party. So he was able to retain a lot of outside thinkers. That's where you started to see dudes with beards and full sleeve tattoos who came from Silicon Valley start to appear working in White House jobs because Obama brought him in. He got to pick his own team and decide which of Hillary Clinton's people were just going to get sent off to Fox News, MSNBC, and CNN to get punted around as on-air people. And Democrats have kind of gone back into that stasis where they don't actually have a lot of the best talent, a lot of the outside thinkers. They've got people who are kind of in zombie past presidency modes mixed with radical progressives who've never won a darn election in their life and never retained the White House in any kind of a meaningful way. And Donald Trump also brings that to this campaign, much more so maybe probably than his first. There is a disruptor class. He obviously didn't have any allegiances to the Republican Party itself, and he got to pick his own people. So while he's highlighting some of the best talent and new talent that's been brought in a generation to Republican politics, Democrats are generally stuck poo-pooing their last wave of intelligentsia who are now podcast bros or consultants on the side. And there's a real dearth of talent for actually philosophical and deep thinking and real strategy beyond simple tactics in the Democratic Party itself.
Well, today is President's Day. I saw a meme earlier today where Bill Clinton was wishing Hillary a happy President's Day. And let's just say people in our audience would have enjoyed the way that Hillary reacted in that meme. There's a long list, though, of DOGE things that they want to accomplish. And Stephen Miller was speaking earlier today. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that and get your reaction.
Over a 10-year normal budget window, you could be talking about saving over $1 trillion by clamping down on massive fraud in our tax and entitlement systems, including, again, those carried out by organized fraud and theft rings.
Right? That lower third, it's like, oh, we're preparing to audit the IRS, right? We are at this point in the DOGE calendar where they're talking about Fort Knox and the IRS. And there are so many different things, Chris, that we see now that we once never thought actually possible to see the government do. What's your reaction to that?
This is the kind of thing that the American people jump up and down for. The American people, and Trump understands this better than a lot of kind of conservative Republican politicians or people who are much more on the right, is that they don't want you to mess with programs that they've paid into their entire lives. They don't want you to mess with their Social Security. They don't want you to mess with their Medicare, but they want to see waste, fraud, and abuse rooted out. And when you've got a program that is sending out as much money as Social Security is, as Medicare is, and you've got programs that are ripe for actually being taken advantage of, lying to the government, filling out forms. And DOGE is bringing a lot of the same technologies that Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and their friends have used over the years in Silicon Valley to track formulas. And what they're doing, what's so new about this, as opposed to interviewing bureaucrats and just looking at spreadsheets, they're actually tracking the money. And they're figuring out where this is going. And they're doing it in a way that the federal government really just simply hasn't. You know, we talked about this, I think, last week, how President Trump is moving to make the chief information officers of these departments political appointees. That sort of thing attracts a new kind of talent that you didn't have previously with career bureaucrats who just sit there and they're in charge of cybersecurity. A lot of them, some of them may be talented, but some of them may be like the worst tech guy you ever had in your office job in your entire life. And they're stuck in those positions. But if you offer outside talent, someone from Palantir, someone from PayPal, someone from wherever, to join in this, I guess now you've got the founder of Airbnb is talking about joining on with Elon Musk and DOGE to help root these things out. If you bring the top minds from Silicon Valley to political jobs with a cool profile and a thing on their resume, then you'll end up getting people who can actually look at the bureaucracy in a way. And my gosh, if you could take $1 trillion out of spending without actually even hurting the elderly or losing votes, how awesome is that?
It's pretty amazing. Chris, 60 seconds. When you look at all the garbage that they're throwing, all the memes that they're throwing out there, the lines of argument, are there any that you think have staying power and the left is just going to keep using, or are they're going to have to find something else?
Right now, if you look at the polling, Elon Musk is between 49 and 52% in approval rating, 55 I've seen in some places. And I saw one outlier that said like 41, which means you're not really making a very big villain of this guy. You see liberals driving around in Teslas that say, I'm part of the anti-Elon Musk Tesla crowd. Okay, whatever that is. Now they're going to try and say conflicts of interest. No, and the reason I know these aren't going to stick is because I'm a member of conservative media. We've talked about George Soros for 20 years, and it hasn't stuck at all, not one bit. None of these guys, Hans, the list goes on, foreign donors or names you could bring that haven't changed the polls. The Koch brothers never did a darn thing to change polls. So far, I've not seen anything that's going to stick, but listen, it's 2 years until the election. They're pretty good at this. I suspect that some moment fortunes may start to change.